So I'm joined by Hannah Mae Cumming and Carly Boone, the directors of Camp Calypso and Fanatico. Welcome, ladies.
Hi.
So you guys are based in Portland, Oregon?
Yes.
Yeah. How is that at the moment? Is it still a political hotbed?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just listening to the radio last night, and I think they said we just hit our 70th day of protesting.
That's ridiculous. Yeah.
Yeah, just about over 3 months, I think, of protesting. So it really doesn't affect like your day-to-day life. Really, it's very contained right in like central downtown Portland, but it's still. You can feel it still.
Sort of focused around the federal buildings, I suppose.
Yeah, like the Justice Center. And
it must be weird. I mean, Portland is like the last place I'd have thought would end up, on the front of the world news like this.
Yeah. But with our history, like it really makes sense because just Oregon was, basically founded on being like a white supremacist paradise, essentially. So we've had a long history in the state of, racial injustice. So it kind of makes sense that everything kind of came to a boil here.
Of course, this has got nothing to do with films.
Yeah.
But I just felt the need to sort of find out how things were. Okay, so you two are 2/3 of the team that created Monstrous Femme, which is, could you sort of talk about what your sort of agenda is and why that sort of production team was formed?
Yeah, so we basically, it all started with Fanatico, and that kind of led to us wanting to do more horror for sure, specifically like a horror anthology. And then as that idea kind of grew even more, and we started to kind of find like a team and people that we knew that we could rely on for many projects in the future, we kind of decided that we wanted to create it into like a collective, which is Monstrous Femme. So that's basically just our name for the group of people that are working on all of these films with us.
Cool. Yeah, no, it's good. So, I mean, is it your intent to sort of put a sort of feminist slant on everything you do, or is it? I'll sort of. That's a horrible question.
Not really. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that's an interest that we've had for the past few projects, because that's kind of like my agenda personally as a director, but we definitely want to branch out and make a bunch of different kinds of horror movies, maybe more original in concept in the future. But Fanatico started as a much smaller project that like grew into something so much bigger. We were in college together at film school and just wanted to make something a little bit ambitious for like an extracurricular project, like not even for class. And it was not supposed to take as long or become as much of a commitment as it ended up being. So then we kind of decided to just run with it and keep creating stuff like that. But definitely like we want to change it up in the future for sure.
Yeah. Okay. I think in general, our main goal is to be progressive and to, we want to keep bringing people on the team and having more like diverse voices being represented. It doesn't necessarily have to be with like a feminist slant or even necessarily focused on women specifically, but just underrepresented people in general.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things, I mean, with both films, if it wasn't the fact that your sort of PR sort of press release sort of mentions the fact that it's a feminist slant, do you think people will have noticed so much? Because I mean, with both films, they entertain first and foremost. I think that is at the forefront of any film. They have to entertain, and whether or not they sort of then make you think about, actually that was a bit different because of this sort of setup. But you know, have you had any sort of response where somebody went, no, I don't get it?
Yeah, if you're talking about Fanatico specifically, I was actually really nervous for a while that people weren't going to see the feminist undertones of the film because of who the victims are, of how they die. You know, I think that inspired us to make Camp Calypso a little bit more overtly feminist, but I also don't want to feel like I am, you know, restricted as a filmmaker because of my identity and my gender. Like, I think there are so many different kinds of feminist films, and feminist horror can look like so many different things. So, yeah, in Fanatico, it was definitely a concern. We honestly didn't know how people were going to react until we showed it in a theater for the first time. So no negative response yet, but we'll see.
And I think also a lot of that nervousness was coming from just, I mean, giallo is a very misogynist genre of horror in general. And I mean, a lot of that is, you know, coming from the fact that it's portraying very brutal killings of women a lot of the times. And Fanatico also does in a way, but I think we also counteract that by showing like specifically the character of Daria, who's, you know, as you said in your review, she's like a sex worker, but she's doing it on her own accord and she has power over it, and she's not being forced into an uncomfortable situation where she's doing it out of any kind of desperation.
Yeah, we definitely wanted to like preserve the traditional elements of the subgenre, but also alter it, but not too much.
No, definitely, and you know, you do capture a lot of the you know, the tropes of the genre, like, you know, the black gloved killer, you know, seeing things from his perspective, you know, and the kills themselves. So yeah, I mean, it was really good. And the score was absolutely superb for that as well. Sort of very reminiscent of. I do mention Goblin in my review. But,
absolutely, yeah. We basically just told the composers to just. They
were also inspired by House by the Cemetery, the score to that, but mostly Goblin.
Yeah. Do you have a particular favorite giallo film?
Phenomena, if you count it as, I know giallo is like, people have disagreements about what a giallo film is, but Phenomena was actually the main inspiration for Fanatico. So I'd say that's
I mean, like, I can kind of see that. Yeah, sort of, you know, young girl turning up at a new school with weird powers. Yeah, definitely.
Rewatch it after you've seen Fanatico.
I think I did see it like about a year ago, recently, but yeah. Yeah, no, it's a weird one. The monkey in that just, it's a weird, very strange element. Yeah, I mean, I did, again, I mentioned in my review that, you know, your film is a bit too logical for its own good, in that it doesn't have any sort of weird twist as to who the killer is, or some weird clues, you know, that are like a lot of them tend to. I think, was it the New York Ripper was probably the most weird one, because I don't think they actually explain why he's the killer. You know, they just say, well, it's him because some very strange reason. But yeah, it's a very well acted film as well. I mean, how did you cast your films? In both cases, were they local people?
Yes. So so like I mentioned, this was a much smaller project once upon a time, and when me and my co-writer were writing it, I found this Instagram of this girl named Alina, and her Instagram was just so interesting, and her online persona was very interesting, and I'd never met her before, but we kind of wrote the character around what I thought she might be like, and found out she was friends with Carly. We linked up, we met, and she was exactly like Daria. And so cast on Instagram. And then with our other actress, I had worked with her dad before, so I knew her. But she's a really great actress. She lives in London now, Morgan Dimitri. And I really like, she has kind of the same vibe that like Jennifer Connelly has in Phenomena. It's like innocent.
Yeah, very like bright-eyed, just super innocent, quiet. It's just kind of watching all of this craziness ensue around her, and she's just getting wrapped up in all of it.
Yeah.
There is an interesting scene where she sort of like asks Daria up front, says, "Are you a prostitute?" And she's like, just really, really nervous about asking the question because just in case she's like misread the situation completely. She's just like, but I have to ask. But yeah, it was quite interesting. And the fact that she says, "I always get bad dreams when something bad happens," and she goes, "Oh right, yeah, okay, thanks." Which is quite funny. Yeah, it's a thoroughly enjoyable film, that's for sure. So I want to move on to Camp Calypso, where you tackle a completely different genre within the horror scope, which is the sort of teen camp slasher, in the vein of sort of Friday the 13th and Sleepaway Camp and things like that. So I mean, where did this particular inspiration come from to sort of like turn this? It is a bit more sort of overtly, has a more overt sort of feminist slant to it because of the way that who the victims are. So did this just come from watching sort of Friday the 13th and going, you know what? What if we sort of flipped this over and did something different with it?
Yeah, kind of. Honestly, the story was not what came first with either project. It was the, oh my God, how fun would it be to make a summer camp movie?
Yeah.
Or how fun would it be to make a giallo or whatever? And then the writing process came after. But definitely inspired by Sleepaway Camp. And I think, a huge trope in these summer camp movies is that these male characters are always really misogynistic and annoying and whatever, but it's always like a joke. It's always played off like it's funny, or if it was normal. And I think something about Camp Calypso that's interesting is, apart from the first kill of Richie in the truck, like what the other guys do isn't that bad. Like what Pete does is awful and what Richie does is awful, but like
Sure.
So we made Dean like litter because we were like, yeah, let's kill him for littering,
and he's spying on the siren, of course.
We just kind of wanted it to be a little ruthless. Like even your little misogynistic jokes should be punished.
Well, exactly. Yeah. So you're absolutely right, and there is this sort of idea, isn't there, in a lot of these films that so the male characters need to be rewarded for something. So the most innocuous thing, we'll reward you with sex, basically. And that's kind of sort of where a couple of these things are being set up as, let's go to my car and share a joint, i.e. let's go back and have sex, sort of thing, or I'll help you tidy up the life jackets, i.e. let's go have sex down by the lake, but and a lot of these films would reward the guys with that scenario, but in this particular version you've got females characters who actually go, no thanks, actually have the the wherewithal to sort of say, I'm not on the same page as you, if that's what your expectation is, I'm leaving, which I thought was very refreshing. So
Heather was just there for the joint. That was it.
Well, exactly, yeah.
That was her only reason.
Well, absolutely, and she makes that quite clear to him as well, and she was going to sort of leave straight away. So yeah. So let's talk about the character of Pete, because Derek Sweets has the heaviest lifting to do in the film as far as characterization is concerned. Because we get those sort of flashbacks of him with Laurelie, sort of from sort of 15 years earlier, and then we sort of see him as he is now, and he can sort of fill in the gap in that sort of 15 years of where his life's gone. The fact that he's now back at the camp.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
He basically just went in a circle over those past 15 years and just arrived right back at the same spot.
Exactly. So his life choices haven't exactly been particularly brilliant over this time. You can imagine that anyone that was there at the time probably went, nothing to do with you, mate. You know, get out of my life. So yeah. But you can see it on his face, though. You know, the fact that he's back at this place and he's sort of full of this sort of self-loathing. You know, so oh, for God's sake, you know, this is where I am. So yeah. I mean, again, was this his local hire? Or was this how did you meet Derek?
Yeah, the story behind this one was pretty crazy. We had another actor who he worked on Fanatico with us, and we had talked about him being in Camp Calypso for a really long time, and something ended up happening, and we lost our Pete about 3 weeks before filming.
Yeah.
And it was very crazy. But we had our associate producer, Alex. He just knew Derek. He was like a mutual friend of his. And like the next day, we met up with him, got coffee, like did a quick little script read, and he just blew us away.
We were like shaking in the coffee shop when he was reading to us.
He was scaring us. He was scary, but also
he's a really nice guy.
Yeah,
he's not like the
it's a total 180 between them. But yeah, it just kind of was something that I think was like
just happened to work. It's really good. Yeah.
He definitely did the heavy lifting. We shaved him. He had to shave his whole body.
Yeah.
To play young Pete.
Yeah. Left set one day completely covered in hair and came back the next morning with
like a baby's bottom.
No hair. So he
oh, dear.
He did a lot. It was great.
Just want to talk about, okay, I mean, both films are quite, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, they're both sort of period set, aren't they, basically? Well, at least the first, at least Camp Calypso set very much in the 80s. Fanatico is kind of timeless. You know, there's no, I want to say idiosyncrasies, it's not the word I'm thinking of. But anyway, but there's nothing in there to sort of pin it to a particular time period. That's what I'm trying to say. And your next feature, which you're looking, or your next short that you're looking to do, I believe, is also set sort of during the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, is this a conscious decision because it's easier to deal with things without mobile phones?
So we've talked about that. No, it's not conscious because of that, but that is definitely a factor.
It's something we've thought about, but I don't think it's like, that has never been a reason that we've
right.
It's really more that we love 70s and 80s horror films, and we just love the fashion and just cinema from those periods. And yeah, they just have like really, really iconic films from those decades. So I think that's really more what draws us to that more than the cell phone.
I was just wondering because, yeah, I mean, it is a sort of modern phenomena, isn't it? Either you have to sort of come up with a way why your mobile phone's not working, so you can't call for help or look up some crucial information, or you said it before phones were a thing. So
yeah,
you know,
definitely
seems,
aesthetic.
Yeah, but there you go. So who would you say your sort of your film heroes are? Let's start with that. Who are your sort of film heroes, both behind and in front of the camera?
I love Dario Argento, obviously. I really like Anna Biller. I think she was a huge inspiration for just making the past two films really stylistic and putting a lot of attention to production design.
Yeah. The Love Witch, like we watched that when we first started talking about Fanatico, and that was something that we were like, you know, this was modern, but it looks like it's really from the 70s. And
that is an awesome film. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. You're not sure when it is actually set. I think there's a few scenes where you see sort of modern cars going past in the background or parked, and you're thinking, okay, is that intentional or just they just caught them, you know, on set? But you know, it's a brilliant film.
Yeah, it just gives it that kind of like timeless essence. Like you don't have to pin it to a certain
Oh,
year.
absolutely. Yeah. No, it's a very good one.
Yeah.
And yeah. And sort of more sort of no, I've lost my train of thought now. What can you tell us about your next project, if anything?
I'll let you take that.
It's called Baby Fever. It's a 70s prom night pro-choice body horror. Take that as you will. It's taking another subgenre of horror that I really love. So the prom night. It's very inspired by, Carrie, Prom Night 2, which is like my favorite horror movie. I don't know if you've seen it.
Is that the one? Was it Prom Night 2? Hello, Mary Lou? Or
Yeah,
something?
yeah. Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2. I love that one. And like body horror, like Cronenberg, The Brood, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah, that's all. That's all. The script is almost finished.
Awesome. I mean, that again, pro-choice is a very loaded sort of political thing in America, with a lot of clinics being shut down or just forced, to operate under such restrictive sort of circumstances. We actually covered a film recently which was from Ireland, and there used to be a thing where, because abortion was actually illegal in Ireland right up until the 90s, I believe, people would actually sort of like catch the ferry over to Liverpool for the weekend, just so they could sort that sort of thing out. But anyway, that's beside the point.
But yeah, and then like it taking kind of place in pre-Roe v. Wade.
Yeah, right now it's 1972. So
of course, yeah.
Versus Wade.
So kind of taking that and then reflecting it onto, today, and seeing how, things
live as well.
So
awesome. Camp Calypso is going to be shown at the Out for Blood festival in October, I believe.
Yeah,
Halloween.
On Halloween, that'd be interesting. What are your plans for after that? Going to stick it on Vimeo or on Amazon or something? Or?
So Fanatico is going to be on Alter. It's going to be released on Alter on September 7th.
All right.
We're really excited about that. So hopefully we can, release Camp Calypso through there. We're not sure right now because the whole festival thing is just so confusing right now.
Yeah,
we don't know what's going to be canceled, what's going to be online.
Yeah.
So
we might submit to more later on, because there were some that got canceled this year that we really wanted to submit to, and of course there are some other ones that got put online that we really want to go to in person. So it might be a little bit longer before it's public,
or shorter. We don't know. We honestly don't know.
All right. Well, good luck with that. And if you ever end up at a festival in London or in England, let me know, and we'll see if we can sort of buy you a beer.
Where are you from in England?
Okay, I'm based in Nottingham at the moment, which is right at the centre of the country. We moved here last 2 years ago. God.
Cool.
Yeah.
I lived in Liverpool for 5 years.
Right.
I'm a British citizen. I just have no accent.
Yeah, we were bummed that Out for Blood was online this year, because we wanted to go.
It would have been fun. Yeah, it would have been fun one.
Hopefully next year.
Indeed, fingers crossed. Pandemic, go away. All right, thank you very much, ladies. Carly and Hannah, thank you very much for joining me this evening, and hopefully we'll be in touch.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, Mike.
Thank you. Good night. Bye-bye.